Welcome video from thechisellifestyle.com. This is my new analog collection for the Korg Modwave, Modwave Native, Mark II, all the Modwaves. There's no samples including this one as well, so you can load these performances programs into your Modwave and you get these full set of analog sounds. So as you can see here, I've got 44 performances, but if you go to all data, you see there's made up of a number of programs as well as performances, so you can use these in your own performances, these layers in your own performances. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to just go through the performances and give you a flavour of the sounds from them, and a bit on the techniques as well. There's a couple of interesting techniques I've used, especially around getting drum kits, drum patterns in there as well, so I'm going to explain those as I go along. So I'm going to whiz through these in this order and demonstrate the sounds. They're all a free download from thechisellifestyle.com. Just head there and there's a music tech download page and you'll see all the performances for the Modwave. There's digital ones, there's M1, there's DD8000, there's all sorts on there as well. There's Pink Floyd, there's Kraftwerk. Just download those and get them all into your Modwave. Okay, so let's start on the first one. This is based on a 2600. I've been doing a lot of playing about with Korg's new virtual 2600, so this was inspired by that, and it's a nice simple monophonic lead type sound. Many of these support polyphonic aftertouch. In this case, the mod wheel and poly aftertouch has some filter LFO. The 2600 is a semi-modular analog synth. Check on the YouTube channel, you can actually check out the video I did on the synth. But what I've done on this to recreate that kind of effect is I've got the 2 oscillators and the sub to give you that same effect of 3 oscillators from the 2600. A little bit of portamento on there as well. So I called this one 80s Romance, maybe used it in an 80s film, in a romance bit of it. So it's got a nice soft pad with an LFO. So it's a nice soft sound. This one's called A Little Thing. So I was trying to get with that, it's not massive analog power sounds, it's just a nice little sound. Because you don't always need a massive sound in your track, so that's what I've tried to do some of these, is make them usable. All the passes, this is a bit of a bigger sound. This one is using dual layers with brass sound with a 4-pole filter, and the other layer is using a high pass 4-pole filter, so you've got a low pass and a high pass. So the idea behind that is you get that high pass out high end, but you still got the body from the low pass. A band pass wouldn't achieve the same thing, so the band pass would only let the middle through. This is only letting the lower and the higher parts through. This one is called Almost. It's just a nice soft analog sound. And here we've got a bass split, so we've got some CX3 strings in the right hand and a bass sound in the left hand. real nice analog sort of sound there. I love that bottom end. Makes you want to pull a face. This one is a bandpass release, so you can hear as you on key release. So you hold the chord down or the notes down and release, the bandpass opens up. This one is called CX3 Strings. It's got some nice strings on there, but I've put the effects through a CX3 chorus. CX3 was Korg's organ. Late 70s, early 80s organ. I had a Leslie sound in there, or a chorus sound in there, and that's what's in the Modwave. Cyber Brass has got a bit of pitch envelope, if I remember rightly. So Cyber Brass, that's got tuned 7 semitone or 7. So Cyber Brass is the 2 layers tuned apart with pitch envelope, almost like a fanfare, maybe used in a 70s sci-fi type film. Then we've got a couple of basses. We've got a deep bass. This one is 2 brass sounds layered. So what I've done with that one is there's tuning on all the oscillators with the LFOs all out of sync slightly with different amounts, so it gives you that big sound. Now we've got a couple of dual arpeggiator ones. So there's 2 layers on that one. We're using the brass section and a Minilogue arpeggiator as well. You'll see later on I've actually got a few recreations of Minilogue sounds. So I've got a Minilogue as the analog synth from Korg, and so I've recreated some of those by ear and I've incorporated those, but that's what's included as the bass in this patch. So if you've got an analog collection, you've got to have some ensemble strings in there, so that's what I've included on here. Done using pulse width modulation, no samples to get that effect. I haven't put the ensemble setting on, which you could have. You could have a Polysix ensemble. That's not the same as a string ensemble. It's a different effect, but you could do. If you like those kind of string synthesizers, then I've actually got a whole bank or set collection of those as well. So you'll find those on our download page as well. So I've actually modeled the Selena string ensemble where I've split the keyboard and all the other parts to it. So if you're into them, check out that. I've got an Ensemble Brass, which is using the Polysix ensemble. do like a nice analog Celeste. And that's using a high pass filter to get that effect. There you can see the 2-pole high pass. So this one's called In Memory, and this is using a sawtooth to get that effect. The effect really is created by having the second oscillator 2 octaves above the first one. So I wanted to include some motion sequence in this, so this is using the motion sequencer. So using the motion sequencer for the notes, and then the cutoff is being affected by free running LFO. So down to the Minilogue section. So these are recreations from patches on my Minilogue. So this one is Oct Bass. And we've got a sync. So nice sync sound. So we've got Minilogue Brass. I've got, if you've got a Minilogue, I've got a set available on the downloads page as well. This is Minilogue Classic Lead. So I've got a bit of portamento on there. This one, I don't know where the patch originates from, but it's called Dukey on the Minilogue. So it's a with a bit of LFO on there. This one was just an init patch so that I could use for bass, and then the one on the Minilogue is called Jupiter, which I think it's supposed to be, it's recreated a Jupiter, but I think it's got its own kind of sound. It's a nice sharp attack sound. And one was called SF, which I think is science fiction. And we've got a warm pad. So now we're on to one, I think, with some drum patterns in. So what I'm going to show you now is how I created that, because unlike say the wave state, which has got a sequencer which will re-trigger samples, the Modwave motion sequencer can trigger envelopes, but it can't re-trigger samples. So you can't get it to trigger the snare on the 4 or whatever, you know, the kick on the first and so on. You can't do that. But what you can do is have multiple oscillators on one sound. So here you can see I've got the bass on all the time and the kick being brought in and out, and that's because I'm using an arpeggiator, and the arpeggiator is triggering the kick. So you can see the arpeggiator. So if I change that's currently on oscillator 2 envelope, if I turn that off, so here you can hear the basics. So the arpeggiator is kicking in, and the arpeggiator re-triggers the sample. So it's re-triggering that kick sample, which is on oscillator 1, always on. Oscillator 2's got the snare. Now if I had the snare just turned up, that would always be triggered, which I didn't want. So what I did is I set oscillator 2's volume to be controlled by oscillator 2's envelope. Oscillator 2's envelope is being triggered by the step pulse, and the length of the oscillator 2 is being the length of the snap of the snare is being controlled by sequence B, and sequence B is opening up that snare on the 2nd and the 4th. So it's as simple as that. There's a couple of different ways you could do it. You could trigger envelope 2 by these amounts as well and not use that length, but I found that works best. In some of the examples I'm doing it the other way, but that works for me anyway. But you could use this as a template and then adapt it yourself. So when you put the two together, and the other layer, the dual step, let me just show you that one as well. So that's using oscillator 1 envelope, and that's using oscillator 2 envelope, and the envelopes are being triggered by sequence step A and sequence step B. And there you can see, so I'm triggering these envelopes at these different times. So if I just had the volume turned up all the time, they'd just be playing all the time. And I could do something like pan these. And then you can add the drum layer in. And that builds that up into your little track. This one's a similar technique. This is using an octave bass and a drum split as well. So there's your octave bass. So you can see I'm using the pitch 2 up, 2 down, 2 up, 2 down on the motion sequencer. Again, triggering the envelopes using the step pulse this time. So that's how I get that effect. And the drum part, a little bit different to the other one. This is being triggered not by an envelope but by sequence A. And there you can see sequence step A, but you can hear that extra slide effect that kicks in, and that's just because it's sliding up to those values. So here we've got a dual Polysix Sequence, again using the motion sequencer, 2 layers, and a Polysix filter being used there. Power glide and power slide, similar things achieved differently. So all the notes make it to the pitch, but it's using portamento to slowly bring them up to pitch. Kind of an unsettling sound. And then power slide uses different technique. That uses an envelope to control the pitch. So Power Slide slopes always has that pitch effect, whereas Power Glide is based on the portamento. And I think that sounds more unsettling because Power Slide uses the envelope, and the envelopes are uniform as you hit the keys, whereas this one is using the portamento, and as you're playing different keys, they all ascend or descend at different rates. We've got Resonant Lead. And one called Searching. Similar technique to before with the drums. I'm using motion sequencer. I should mention the drum ones as well. You can use the mod controls to control the volume of the drums as well, so you don't have to have those on. So here we've got an arpeggiator and a nice pad. So now a nice analog sound using the MS-20 low pass filter. It has brass sound. This one, Slice Mix, is another drum example. So you can turn the drums down, or you can control the snare. Or just a kick. And the synth is using the motion sequencer to get that effect. With the envelopes being affected by the step pulse or the step sequence or the layer B levels. A slice pad. Which is using an LFO, but we're using a square LFO to get that effect. You can get some interesting effects doing that. Nice soft bell. So a nice sort of analog sounding layer. Square strings. layers on there, JX 8P layers. I've actually got a JX set as well, whole Roland set as well, so you can check those out. And we've got a sync. Nice sync sound. A synth flute. The idea being this one is analog synths to create synth sort of flute sound. You use a bit of breath, so you could use some white noise, and then the synth sound on top of that. So not like a real flute, but it has got that sort of synthetic effect. A Unison Lead. And this one I've called Wonky Analog. Because the pitch starts higher and eventually settles down, and you can adjust that with the mod control, how much the initial pitch is off by. So you can get that sort of effect. So that's the analog collection. If you want to import these in, just go to Librarian, unzip the file that I provide, and then go to Librarian and go to Import and browse for the file that you want to import. Then browse for the file that you unzipped, and that's it. It'll import them in. So I hope you enjoy this collection. Please keep your suggestions for new collections coming in. I've heard all the ones that comments come so far, so I have got plenty in the works. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.